Hello and welcome to the walkthrough of the Pillports Permits module. So for users that have not used Sphera Cloud before, the navigation of this module is fairly simple. Clicking either of the icons in the top left hand corner refreshes the entire page. This is good if you have been given increased user rights. You don't need to log out and log back in, or if somebody has made a change for you, you can just click the logo and it will refresh in front of you without having to log out and log back in. We have our location chooser at the top here. If you are testing, please make sure you're using the ZZ test location. There is an option to change your password, see what details are held in the system against you, change your preferences. For example, you can change your time zone, how you want to order your modules, which appear in the drop down over here, and your ease of access. So this just adjusts the size of the wording on the PDF outputs. Right, so if we head back to the home screen, we'll head into the permits module. As you can see, the module is designated permits. You have an option right next to that called view permits. This will refresh your permit screen. You can create a new permit from this banner as well, and there's also a button down here and they do the exact same thing. Next to the button for creating a new permit are all of your filters. So you can pick a start and end date, you can pick specific dates, and if you don't actually want to do that, you just click the clear filter and it'll take you back out. There is a free text search, so this is based on the columns that are beneath this, so anything you pick here you can free text search and it will bring back every item it can find. There is an export option. You can export to Word, PDF or Excel, and that exports the current view that you have. So if you have filtered by anything, it will just export that view. Then we come on to what we know, it's Sphera as a list page, and it's just a tabular output of all of the permits that have been created in the system. If you want to sort on something, you just click it and it will do oldest to latest first, or Z to A, and then if you click it again it will do A to Z, or newest to oldest. Right, so we will start with creating a new permit. Now, you only have one permit form in the system. It can either be used for general permits or for more specific type permits, and we will get to that section as we go through. Any section on the form that you see that has a little plus and minus sign, it means you can collapse it and uncollapse it. Just allows for you to have a bit more space after you've read the guidance notes. So in section 1, which is the submission of the permit, it'll ask you for a title. I'll tell you when you created it, give you a chance to change the location if you wish. You can pick some more port specific information. Any additional location information. This is very similar to what you'll have on your incidents module, so it shouldn't really be any different to what you see there. It will pop in who the originator is, so this is me, and you can also now add any deputies to authorize the permit in your absence. So this means that further down the form, when you have to be the approver, somebody else can do this if, for example, you're away from your current shift, if you're on, for example, 4 rest days. So we will add in some additional people here. And you can add as many into this list as you want. Then we get to our first mandatory section. If you don't tick all of these, the system will tell you that you are missing something. So I'm going to leave this one open for the moment so that I can show you the error. Fill out the description about the work and the valid start and end date. So we'll start it today and we'll have this closed tomorrow. Now we come to the who it's issued to. We have a company section here which will look up to the contractors module, so you can search for any contractors that have been created. At the moment, contractors is still in test when this video is made, so there are a lot of test contractors. If the permit is to be issued to a contractor not on the approved list, because that contractor list will only show you approved contractors, if you click no, obviously it keeps you where you are. If you say yes, it will change and you'll have to put in some additional information. I'm just going to keep the contractor one open and just pick one of these. Then we have any hazards associated with the work. I'm just going to say none. And now we get to the specific permits section. If you do want to add any of these, so if I click confined space, what that will do is it opens up another section in section 2 for me to enter more information. If I untick it, it will disappear. As you'll notice, when I click the confined space, the no additional permits is grayed out. And similarly, vice versa, if I click the no additional permits, it grays out the other ones. And this is the option you would use if you're just doing a general permit for access, for example. So we are actually going to just keep with the confined space, and we'll just add another one for, we'll use mechanical isolation. We'll just add in these 2 questions. If you do have any risk assessments or safe systems of work, they can be attached further down in the related documents section. For the personnel undertaking the work, you can add as many as you want here, and click add, and it will give you a pop-up where you can enter different information. And it will just build a table up, and you can add as many of these in here as you like. Now we go on to the specific permits. I won't bore you with how to enter basic information, but drop downs, 3 text fields that you can resize if you're using Google Chrome, name of the safety watcher, this is just a free text. And then we come to another section where there are mandatory provisions, so you need to have had all of these checked. So I'm going to leave one open as well so we can see the error that gets produced at this point. And then you've got a bunch of drop downs here that you can pick from. Please note that anything in the light blue colour is a mandatory field, and the system will tell you to make sure that it has been answered if you do not, when you press submit at the bottom of the form, if you haven't actually entered anything. You have the ability to enter gas testing requirements. This will take you into another form. We could just specify the date in which it was taken. once again that will just build up a nice table for you. There we go, and you can edit that or delete it if it was entered incorrectly. As you can see, there is a authorization section and a completion and clearance section that won't be available till later on in the process. We have our second specific permit type, and the add button works here. It'll take you to a new form where you can add a mechanical isolation. And it will just build up a nice table for you, so you can enter as many of those as you like. Once again, the authorization and completion and clearance is grayed out. You have the option to add any related documents, and that is just a straight select and it adds that in for you. Now when we get to the bottom, you can either save it, which means it will save it and leave it in a draft status. You can cancel, which means anything you've entered up until now without saving it you will lose, and if you submit for approval, the system will change that to awaiting approval, but it will do some checks to make sure that all your mandatory fields are selected and you've entered all the right information. So if I was to submit for approval here, the system does tell me that the following errors have occurred. Please make sure you've made all the selections in the originate a request for work section, and the confined space, make sure you've selected all the mandatory provisions. So, okay, so those are those two that we left unselected. So if I go back up here and press that one, and then a little bit further up we have our mandatory section here. So that should now allow us to do is submit that. And now we have our permit to work that's been created for confined space and mechanical isolation. We're at authorization requested, and what that now does is anybody for this who has access to this specific location, who is part of this user group or this user group, will receive a notification telling them that they need to approve this work. Anybody in the overall approval, the area authority, will also receive a notification telling them that they need to authorize this permit as well. So if I now edit the permit, the data that has been submitted will be in a read-only state. As we get further down the form, our permit authorization is now open for us to enter. There is some validation on these dates. If you try and put something before the valid start date, the system will tell you that you can't have this, and it needs to either be on the date or after when the valid period of that permit is. So I'm just going to select today for ease, and tomorrow is when it ends. And if I want to authorize the permit, I select this section, and you'll see that you can't click the authorizer or the permit date, but that will be set by the system when you approve it further down on the form. And we have the same for mechanical isolation. I'm actually just going to leave this one open for the moment. And then we have our originator to approve it. As you see, when I click that, it populates me. I can put in a specific date and time. specify whether a nominated person signature is required, and actually I'm going to leave the overall permit authorizer and the area authority open for a moment. Now when we get down to the bottom here, we can see that I have a few options. The overall approve the overall permit and reject the overall permit is only available to users that have the user group of overall permit authorizer or area authority, which is why I can see all of them, because I have access to all of those groups. Now if I click approve, because I'm in that group, I need to make sure that the dates are set. I'll just approve that. And right next to the type of permit, we can see which ones have now been authorized. As you'll notice, the status has not changed because we're still waiting for the overall permit authorizer and the area authority to sign this off. If I go back in and pretend to be one of both of those users, I can navigate down to the section for authorization. You'll see that in the mechanical authorization it's populated when I did it and by who. I can tick the overall permit authorizer, the area authority, what I will do is I'll just untick that for 1 second. If I try to approve it, the system will tell me it's an invalid action and not all authorizations have been complete. So my only option is either to save it for later or just click the approve button if I happen to be part of one of the other groups, because obviously I can only see this one if I am one of the authorizers for the specific permit types. But if I'm just going in and making an update, the best option is to use the save for later. So if I now make sure that that's ticked and the information is filled out, I can approve the overall permit. And as you'll now see, the status moves to approved. Obviously, you can go back in and view any of this. Once you're at your validity end date, the system will just start checking at this point to see whether it needs to mark the permit as expired or not, and the system will just update it once it gets past the expiry date. So now to do the completion and clearance section. Just before we do that, I'll show you a couple of the options in the option menu. You can print this as a PDF. As you'll see, it just outputs it into a nice readable format for our users, which you can get people to sign and potentially give the person undertaking the work a copy. There is a current option at the moment to close the permit. This doesn't actually close anything. What it does, it just makes every element on the form read only. And we are looking to enable an option here to actually remove this if it's not required. But you can use this. It is controlled by a specific role. So if you wanted to just put something on hold to stop somebody from editing it for the time being, then you could use that option. You can delete the permit or view any changes that have been made to the history. If somebody has made a change to this, as you can see, we mark the exact date and time and the change that was made. The only way that this could ever be wrong is if somebody has left their computer open and somebody is logged in as somebody else. Otherwise, if somebody's made a change, then their specific user has made that change in the system. Right, so on to the completion and clearance section. If you remember, for each section now, the authorizations are now grayed out. The completion and clearance section for confined space. You can specify whether it's cancelled or whether it's been completed. Defaults in U when you select that, and you can select your specific date. And the same for mechanical isolation. And then we have a completion clearance section for the originator, the permit, overall permit authorizer, and the area authority. They all need to be selected. So I'm going to leave those ones open for the moment. I'm going to submit for completion. And what the system does is it just goes down and makes sure that all of those options have been checked. If stuff has been signed off, it will mark it as closed. But it will keep it open if not all approvals have been completed. So I can go back into this. Mark off the completion for each of these. The section should be auto-filled, so I just need to check why that's broken, but that should be fine when you come to use this. And once again, it will just run through, check that all the authorizations have been done, and once they are all done, it will move it to closed. That's pretty much the walkthrough of the permits module. It's fairly straightforward. You do have a bunch of other specific permits that you can go through and test. Obviously, for today's walkthrough, it was easier to just show you a couple of different ones and the process of how that works. Any issues you may have, please raise with your key users, and they will feed back to Sphera directly. Thank you.